Hi, and welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. In the episode today, all the men are invited, dads or not. If you're a male, you're invited to listen in because we give a lot of space on this podcast to moms, women. And I get a lot of questions. I keep getting a lot of questions about men. Well, how about men? What about if my husband is yelling? Or whatever, but what about if I want to be a better parent for my kids and I'm a guy? Can you help me too? So, for this podcast episode, I invited our Zen Superdad coach, so a male coach I hired to work with men, with dads. We had our first cohort of men who started at around the same time for the first time ever. We never had that before. Before, I used to work with men like myself, and those were only like individual separated cases now and then. Or I was working with them also as part of couple sessions. But never in the past did we have a situation that we have today, which is that a handful of dads, actually husbands or partners of our Zen Supermom client, they raised their hand, joined our daddy tantrum training, realized this would be something that would help them too, and they joined around the same time and they started working with our one-on-one trauma coach, Victor. So, because that was about 3 months ago and they are slowly finishing their Zen Superdad program, I invited Victor to come and talk to me again on this podcast to let me know what is it that he noticed, what are some commonalities that he observed by working with these men, and what are some insights and inspiration that he could share with all the dads and men out there that might be listening to this podcast as well. So I'm very excited to present you this interview with Victor. Let's play it. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. Hi, Victor. Happy to have you here with me on the Zen Supermom podcast again.
Good, great. Yeah, me too. Looking forward.
Because it's the second time. You're actually the only guest, the first male guest, and the only one who's appearing for the second time on the podcast. So what a precious opportunity we have today. Very happy to have you here. And we will be talking here because we need to talk about dads. We need to talk about men. I'm giving so much space to moms, and it's still Zen Supermom program, Zen Supermom podcast, and we are doing all for moms to stop yelling at their kids. But we are working with men behind the scenes as well, and this is what I would love to talk to you today about, because we had a handful of men who started the program at about the same time, like individually, but together. And you have some insights. I would love to hear your insights about what is it that you noticed, you as their one-on-one trauma coach. What are some similarities? And what is it maybe that you feel like more men would need to hear? So yeah. I'm bringing you in as this extra support for the male voice in the parenting space.
First of all, I must say I'm very happy to be able to share this approach, especially now with men, because sometimes men have much more difficulties to express what they carry within. Men are conditioned, that boys don't cry. If there's an emotion coming up, some of them, hold them back and be the tough guy, be the good guy, the performance has to be perfect. So the perfectionist is coming in, and it is basically a situation where men in general are expected to perform out there and stand there and take on the role, but they are not so much allowed to express really what they feel within. And the methodology we are using here is a methodology which seems initially difficult, but it's actually the only way, because what we do is when we experience some difficulty, we are not running away from the difficulty in this session we are leading. What we are doing is, because this is an ability which we have as human beings, we don't need to be totally absorbed by our feelings or emotions or inner states. We have an ability to take a step back and have a look on on ourselves, and on the environment. And in these sessions, which we are doing, we are exactly experimenting that. So, for example, the clearest tool which we can use, or which we have, on which we are playing life, is our body. Now, the body is not only hunger or fun or sport or running. The body is a very fine-tuned instrument, actually. And often we as men are cut off from these sensations which the body is sending all the time. I'm often saying the body is our history. When I start to listen to my body, I discover the past, because the past is sitting in our muscles. The thoughts, when we are tense, are sitting in the neck. Or, keep your buttocks tight. These are things which I actually have learned in my past. Go through it and take this attitude. Now, fortunately, the world is opening up, and we live in a time where men are also now allowed to be softer. And this gives us an opportunity to open up to this work. Because when we look at some spots which might be unpleasant in the beginning, we look at them and then we discover from where they are coming from. And when we discover from where they are coming from, we discover certain patterns. For example, in the experience I went through now in these sessions, there were all sorts of induced belief from the story of the parents on the male. For example, in one situation, you are not allowed to rest. You are not allowed to have fun. Because if you are having fun and if you are happy, it's not moral. So you have to do and get going all the time.
And this is, by the way, if I may just interject, many women will resonate with this as well, because this is like, this trauma goes across genders, that you're not allowed to rest. You just have to do. You're not allowed to have fun because your parent, I am stressed out. What I also heard, and specifically this one was even more prominent in men, was you're not allowed to have big emotions. Like, you're angry, you're an aggressive boy, and that's not okay. So you go outside. Some of them are even kicked out of the house, or go there in your room, close the door, and come back when you're being the good kid again, when you're being the good boy, when you do not have that anger. And many of them were telling to me as well, before they started working with you then, and their one-on-one sessions, was that problems were not talked about at home. Those were very homes where things are focused on logistics. So kids are getting the food, the dishes are getting washed, house is getting cleaned, laundry is getting washed, and homework is being written. But then there's no kind of emotional support. Like, there's no talking about feelings, experiences, how was your day behind, like underneath? Yeah, it was good and stuff. And just toughen up, because as you were saying, they were not allowed to be soft because emotions are for weak and for women, and you're a man, you need to protect and just man up and manage it. So it's just like all of these cut off, it was causing them to feel like cold robots. They were getting emotionally numb whenever the emotions were taking over.
And it is basically the need of a child is to be able to stumble, make mistakes, allowed to be loud, to really express. And when a child, especially also here, and in one case, is sent away from the table because they were not eating in the right manner, getting out of the table or expressing something a little bit loud, so without food, waiting outside, immediately this feeling of punishment and not being cared and not being loved. And the interesting thing is that the child mind, and then as it grows on, is more and more, you are not worthwhile to be loved, for example. You are not worthwhile to be cared for. I have to care for myself, you know.
Yeah.
And this then depends also, you know, if you have a family where different sisters and brothers are there, and for example, the younger brother needed to be then taken care by the older children, but the older children also didn't want it really. So there was a conflict in itself. So the younger one retreated in himself and withdraw. And the mechanism then becomes what men are really, really good in, is an avoidance mechanism, is a mechanism just to escape. Oh, I don't want this situation, you know, I want to have fun, I want to do something else. So we look for something else. And it is, especially in relationship, it is this momentum when difficulties come, and difficulties are coming. Then we have learned, okay, there are difficulties. I'm not looked at, I'm not cared for, so I just choose something else. And I do something else. And the interesting thing is, from our work, that in a very healthy way, we conduct basically the man to his past impressions, for example, as a child. And then we allow something beautiful, that suddenly we visualize the situation, a painful situation, standing alone in front of the door, and you are only allowed to come back in if you shut up, or if you finish your plate when you don't want to eat the food. Yeah. So in a situation like this, standing there, left totally alone, so we do something interesting. We ask now, since we have the ability to understand the child mind, but now we are adults. So we ask the adult mind to step in the situation and say, hey guy, what do you need now? What is it actually in this situation? And maybe you as a child want to talk, or maybe not. And then suddenly we are just standing aside, and the atmosphere changes, and there starts to be a dialogue between my adult and my child. And there it becomes something really lovely, where then in a situation, it depends on the situation, we take now the child and we step up to the mother and we tell the mother, listen, mother, honestly, I don't like that you treat me like this. I don't feel loved. I don't feel cared for. And okay, you want me to eat the plate because in the war or in the time before, one wouldn't leave food on the plate. However, if I eat, I'm not happy. I'm unhealthy because I'm too full. So we play between the child mind and the rational mind. And the interesting thing is, suddenly a beautiful atmosphere is born between these two parts, which are alive in me, the adult and the child. And we start in an integration which creates a different memory. So there's this beautiful sentence which I like very much. It's never too late to have a good childhood.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is not only never too late, it is required to heal your childhood, even though the past is done. You can still heal it, and it's necessary if you want to have a healthy present and future. Because
Yeah.
this is the key point that all of our men and women, they realize when they start working with us, is that all of those triggers, all of these situations when they would have previously exploded in anger or then collapsed inside and become emotionally numb and avoidant, all those triggers are a time machine from their childhood, and they do not have to have that emotionally frozen part of themselves, the kid in them, keep hijacking their adult being, because that's exactly what you just mentioned that I'm summarizing now. Once you realize it's a kid in you who needs help, so that you can stay being the adult and actually support yourself, your inner child, that's the moment when you take back control. You start managing your emotions rather than your past trauma managing you and hijacking you. So this is exactly the integration and wholeness. Yeah. I often call it as, unfortunately, not blaming our parents, not throwing them under the bus, but they created very long list of conditions for us to feel worthy of love. And so that's the opposite of unconditional love. And rather than for us now waiting for some other hero to save us as adults, or wishing that we had better childhood or better parents growing up, you actually realize that you can be your own hero. You can save yourself, even now as an
Yeah.
adult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
And
beautiful work.
no, it's a never-ending process, because I mean I notice now as a little bit more grown-up man and a bit more in age, I still see how very often the imprints of the childhood. And I mean, you say basically you see if in the first 8 years a child is conditioned, and you carry this your whole life. So it pops up all over and over again. And if we look at society, we live in a sick society. There's rarely, I mean, it's getting better, but there's rarely like a very healthy environment where the emotional expression is allowed. It changes now. I think we are helping us to change this. But to create this space, also, I want to get to this point professionally wise. I'm working in the corporate environment, and the numbness of leaders, that gets even worse. To hold back and toughen up in an environment, and this is in a work environment, and this non-expression then, if there's misunderstanding, is played on the childlike level. Outbursts, authoritarian behavior. I'm like this is my role.
You
Or
can
the
see
other
it even
side.
in politics. You can see it everywhere. Whenever
Yeah.
people get pushed to their limits and when there's too much pressure, that's the reason why you start behaving like a child, or why you see other people behaving like children. If their inner child, if their childhood was not completely clean and trauma-free, indeed. Victor, but while I completely agree, this is a lifelong journey for all of us, I would like to also tackle the fact that while doing the combination of not just trauma healing, but the mental fitness aspect, we can
Mm.
bring results in 3 months, in just 5 sessions, which is
Yes.
something that sounds
Yes.
super outrageous to people who have already been on some healing path.
Yes.
They often think that I'm totally making it up. And even I realized that you didn't believe me fully, even though you were like, I hired you as one of my coaches. But what you mentioned in the group call with the men last week, when you were saying, yeah, now we are finishing your one-on-one sessions, guys. And I'm so surprised how much value and how much progress you made. I was like,
Exactly.
shoot, even Victor didn't believe me. So what are the
No,
results that you
it's not.
see?
It's not
Yeah.
that I didn't believe you. I think the tools we are giving in this process are so amazing tools that they make the participant freer to deal with him or herself. And this is the beauty. It's true, I'm not the believer, because we have a lot of quick fixers out there who just say, do, this and that and the magic pill. No, I mean, let's be honest. It is work looking at oneself. But when I look back now into the last sessions, and I see in one, especially in one of the last sessions, where the person which stepped in was more numb, and now suddenly embracing his feelings and embracing also just being, because men more than women are conditioned by doing, 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 doing. And we are not called human doings, we are called human beings. And the being part is something we can accentuate a little bit more. And the mental fitness tool is amazing, and all the time present also in the trauma sessions, because we look at these different categories. Yeah, we look at the different tools, the PQ reps, the tools in order to bring me back into the present moment. And only then you can actually tackle your issue. And this is beautiful. So, yeah, I mean, as I see in all the sessions, the men are on the path, which is the path of self-discovery, which is one of the most beautiful paths we are accompanying men. I'm accompanying men, or we are accompanying basically families, because suddenly life is not all the time heavy through challenge, but it is actually that we discover each other. It can become, it's not all the time, can become more playful.
Yeah.
Because we know, we all know that we have different sides, and which at times beat, but the attitude with which we are taking this is changing through our work, and this is huge. Yeah, in 3 months.
And the story
Yeah.
will continue, of course, but this is the kickstart we promised to everybody. So yes.
Absolutely.
And let's use this opportunity also to invite other men to come and learn more, because we are throwing here terms like inner child and mental fitness and things, and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? So I would like to use this opportunity to invite any men who are listening to join us for the next Daddy Tantrum training we will be doing together with Victor, probably somewhere at the end of or around in September. We will be planning it together. So if you're interested in joining us there, reach out to us at Zen Supermom at hi@zensupermom.com. We will link the address for you wherever you're listening or watching. So that you can join the wait list, and once we have a date and we have links for you to join, you will get invited, because this will be a free live training we will be doing again with Victor, where we explain all of this and why it matters to you. We do it live because we want your feedback and we want to answer your questions, so that we would then talk about, well, what are the next steps, and could that help you too, and could that help you with your struggles? Is it that you are numbing out as well, as Victor was talking, or are you struggling with keeping your anger under the lid? Yeah. So that will give us the opportunity to really connect, because that's why we are doing this, right? This is our mission to help. And on one side, we are helping a lot. We have 4 trauma coaches now on the Zen Supermom side. Victor so far is the only one who's supporting us on the Zen Superdad side, doing one-on-one sessions with dads. But this is something that we would love to keep growing, because we see the results, and the results are just amazing. Victor, would you like to share something about?
Yeah, I mean, the results, for men all the time, career is important, development, realization in the professional world. And the interesting thing is that the more we do this work on ourselves, it reflects in our career, it reflects in the jobs, in the roles we have. You're just performing in a much different way. And I can only encourage this over and over again, not to waste the time and hang on and do the outer fixes without starting to fix something in between. Inside, not in between, inside. Yeah.
Yeah. Because while we cannot control the economy, you cannot control all of your work environment, you cannot control your family, your relatives, your kids. The only thing you do have full control over that can change everything else is you and how you respond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
It's a
much for
great,
leading by example, Victor. Any last words, anything that you would share to invite the men who might be listening right now?
Yeah, one beautiful thing which I noticed also, we suddenly, when we meet, and sometimes we meet as men, there's a feeling of community suddenly. And there's a feeling what men are not doing often, that they share deeply from within and they talk about their weak sides. And by talking about this, suddenly it becomes strong. And suddenly it becomes, wow, this is interesting. And so, this feeling of community, which we are creating because you have the opportunity after these sessions to continue with us, we have these group meetings, and you really can bring, since life is so full of challenges at the moment, especially society is going through, you can bring it there. And we can have a nice talk among men. And this is different. It does not very often happen out there that men join together and they share about something very essential.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, because how would I know about what men are meeting? But indeed, I think that's the stereotype that I could imagine when you have a group of bros, like friends, then you probably want to just like show off or talk about what's going well. But talking about what's not going well or where you had a breakthrough with your own sensations and experiences and emotions, I can imagine like that must be quite vulnerable to feel safe enough to bring it up.
And we all want to experience happiness and ultimately love. Love is such a big word, but it basically every human being wants to feel this connectedness. Now, when I see often men here, I mean, I'm in Italy or wherever, very often it's on the level, or let's have a drink. And this is usually what happens in the corporate, in the evening, let's have a drink and over a drink. And seldom you get to the point, hey, do you went through today, or what was a challenge? Okay, among coaching colleagues, yes, we do this. Yeah. However, in a group with men, this experience you can do here with Alena and myself is really meeting in your core essence and exchange and feel safe. And actually, since you feel vulnerable and you can talk about vulnerabilities in a safe environment, you will feel a great strength, because what you will feel, and we men often don't experience it, you are not alone. You are not alone. A lot of topics which will come up, you will see, hey, wow, he's also struggling or thinking about this. And this could be my experience, and that is his experience. And so we start an interesting exchange, and it becomes very dynamic. And this is so valuable. And thanks, that Alena has created this healing environment now. And we will really be on the beginning. We really want you together with us to develop this more and more so that it spreads out and we do really a difference in a society which at the moment is not in its best angle. Yeah.
Yeah. And which is something that I want to avoid doing. And they say, I'm from Czech Republic, and we Czechs, we often joke about ourselves that we are experts at everything, especially when we are sitting in a pub with like a big chug of beer. I want to avoid these kind of like pub beer discussions and rants about politics and economy because the world is in a terrible place right now. What I'm more interested in is rather taking it from the perspective of, well, what we can do about it. And this is what we are doing very tangibly, one person, one family at a time. So yeah, if you're interested in more than just ranting about how terrible the world is today and how feeling lonely in that pain of you trying to fake it till you make it and be the best parent and best boss or worker you are, then let's talk about it. What needs to happen? Yeah. We would love to see. Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I can just add, I'm still of the generation, the after-war generation, and I can see my father where they weren't able at all to have these type of communication. This was even more rigid. Now we are growing, we are improving, it is getting better, but we won't make it alone. We will make it only together. And that is one objective also of mine, to be part of this group here and to be part of this work.
And that's why we are so happy to have you. Thank you, Victor. Thanks also for accompanying me here for the second Zen Supermom podcast episode. It was a pleasure to have you. And hey, guys, if this didn't tempt you to join us for the upcoming Daddy Tantrum training, then I don't know what. So reach out, get your name on the wait list, and we look forward to seeing you there with Victor.
Okay,
Take
lovely.
very good care. Bye.
Yeah, great. Bye. Bye.
Why can't you stop yelling at your kids? And no, it's not the stress, lack of sleep, kids not listening, fighting, hitting, no support, time pressure, ADHD, hormones. No, moms around the world are doing it regardless. How? Join us for the upcoming Mommy Tantrum training and find out too.